Hi, thanks for joining us today for our Sinktank webinar sponsored by Women in Music. Today's topic is going to be sync licensing. As you can read from pitch to placement, we're going to talk about all facets. Because we're going to be talking about so much, I'm going to deviate a little bit from what I normally do, which is kind of go through the entire webinar and then take questions. We have like 18, 19 slides here. So what I think I'll do is kind of cover each slide and then take some questions. I'm probably only going to be able to take about 2 questions per slide, but feel free to send them all in. Anything that I didn't get to or cover in other slides, we'll just cover at the end. So again, thanks for joining. A couple other thanks. Big thanks to Emma Griffith, the publisher and editor of the Sync blog, which is Sinktank's blog and kind of community resource. She did a great bit of work putting these slides together. I'm kind of a talking head in this situation, so big up to her for all of that. Again, of course, a huge thanks to Women in Music. A great organization that, as you can read on the slide, it has been just basically championing the women in musical arts and in the record industry and publishing industry and everything. Thousands of users around and members around the country and other parts of the world. A great resource for everyone, especially women in music themselves. As far as getting discount codes and just support as you grow in the industry. They also throw really great parties, so always go to one of their parties if invited. And I'm here to represent Sinktank. Sinktank is a little platform that came out of a record label and publishing company that my longtime best friend and I had started. I kind of went into internet radio in its early stages, and he solved his staffing problem and resource problem by creating a website and a software that would pretty much do the work for him. We joined forces again after he had done that, and we continued to, bring that tool and that resource to companies of all sizes all over the world, from some of the bigger names that you see here to independent composers, independent creators, artists, and small-time publishing companies and record labels. We, of course, as a part of this, would like to make you aware of our software. We do offer a really great product called Sound Gizmo, which is geared towards smaller catalogs. It has a lot of the features that the Sinktank platform has. We'll go over that a little bit towards the end. I'm not going to sell you guys too much, but I do urge you to check it out. So with that said, let's get started. So sync licensing. Sync licensing is emerging as one of the more sought after ways to monetize your copyrights. Artists and companies, from publishing companies to record labels, are realizing that while the industry kind of fluxes in how it's going to monetize the sale of masters, such as streaming services and the decline of physical product and even digital downloads. Sync licensing and licensing in general of copyrights has become a real viable way to grow your catalog and your wealth, doing what you love. A sync license is at the core of this monetization channel, and that is basically, as you can read, of very simple. Well, I should say not simple. A seemingly straightforward agreement between the copyright holder of a musical asset and the creator of a video asset. And basically the agreement is that the video creator would like to use the audio copyright to enhance their work. And of course, we obviously need a license to do this because it can be spread across multiple channels and be monetized in multiple ways. Now it's especially important that people understand exactly how many channels sync licensing can occur on. It used to kind of be, the old thinking was you were synced in a movie, you were synced for a television show, and you were synced on an advertisement. And that advertisement could be radio, could be video, so on and so forth. Now in the 24th century, it's kind of blown open. Video games now are a very, very large part of syncing, both in-game syncing, which occurs on a lot of games as they become more narrative based. EA Sports is huge on this. They do some really big, popular syncs, FIFA 17 and whatnot. As well as as well as all the trailers and all the advertisement that goes along with those games. So there's consistent trailer creation to promote these worldwide, and there are a lot of sync opportunities across many territories for those works as well. We also get into various new media platforms, streaming platforms such as Netflix and Hulu. Again, a lot of trailer work, a lot of original content that's being created for them, for those series. I don't think we can legitimately call them TV shows anymore. I think they've moved on from that, but still, a lot more opportunities. So in order to sync a work, you kind of have to have get permission to do so on two sides of the work. There's the publishing rights, which equate to the actual intellectual property of the copyright, the sheet music maybe, or the MIDI notes at this point. That is then usually utilized by the master, which is the actual audio recording of the work. That then is usually what's synced. So one copyright can have many different masters. Nearly 100 years ago, back when standards were very popular, one composer and one lyricist would write the sheet music for a work, and then it would be performed by various bands, recorded by various artists, so on and so forth. So if there's a particular version of a copyright that a potential licensee wants, then the publisher who owns or admins the copyright would have to seek the permission from the master holder, which could be the record label, could be the artist himself. There are a lot of different ways that can happen or be split, the rights to. They would have to ask for permission for the master to actually do the sync. And, not to be too confusing, but this can come from a lot of different people can act as sync agents, if we'll call them. So, the actual commercial deal might be put together by someone that is on the master side or is on the publishing side. It's really a case-by-case situation. So and then there are several different ways that you can get paid on a sync license. The original fee, which would be you're paying X dollars for the use of A song in B territory over C term, and that would all be done in the original agreement. But that creates other channels of monetization, because now every time that sync is played, commercial airs or there's however it's played, through whatever channel, a performance right is generated. So the people that performed on that are getting some payment from that via their performance right organization, your ASCAP, CSAC, BMI. So there's a lot there. And again, I know I'm kind of breezing through this, but we're going to provide these slides with you. You'll see in the coming slides that there are a ton of links that we've provided that you guys can kind of go through and take your own time to read. So I'm going to check out some questions now. I'll let you guys digest this slide further. All right. Well, looks like we're good on that one. I'm going to keep moving, and again, feel free to write in the questions as they come up, and we'll address them as each individual slide finishes. So the most important step, and really the building block of being able to sync license, is to have a catalog. You have to have copyrights that you legitimately own, that are tagged correctly, that you understand the rights to, that are registered correctly with the proper organizations. And, again, moreover, that you have the catalog and that you understand how it can be utilized to the best of your ability. And it's always a learning process from everybody. We spend a lot of time interviewing music supervisors and creative professionals, music publishers, and there's never a dull moment in the industry. There's always going to be, usually some particular issue or amendment to any sort of contract, and they'll be dealt accordingly. But before you do that, again, you have to really get into actually having a healthy catalog. A healthy catalog comprises of tracks that you either have clearance to use by your partners and the people that you share rights with. Those can be, very, very dispersed amongst many people. So if you are the publisher, you need to be in contact with the owner of the master, and that can happen in a variety of different ways. We're not going to drill into it too much, but usually there's some industry standard kind of agreement types, like one-stop agreements, which means that, for instance, that the publisher and the master owner have an agreement that either one has the ability to act on a pre-decided term to sync or license the track. And the beauty of that is if one side gets a request, they don't have to go through calling the other side to get approval. They know that they can act on that and make it easier for the licensee and do the sale. Because again, this is all about sales, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So to have a clean catalog, first, metadata is huge, basically because you need to be able to locate, or an end user or a potential licensee needs to be able to locate your track that will suit them within your catalog. And at Sinktank we have clients that have 200,000 tracks, and if you're looking for one track, that can be a little bit daunting. But if your metadata is filled out correctly and everything is tagged, in a consistent manner, then you'll be able to find what you need quickly based on a variety of different metadata points. Our system, I think we track 60 or 70 of them, and different people will adhere to different best practices. I'm actually I did a talk at the Mondo Sync event in New York a few months ago, and I spoke particularly about metadata. I actually published my talking points, and I'm going to do that for you guys as well. It's kind of a down and dirty, outline of everything I wanted to cover. It's not pretty, but I think it's very valuable. So we'll share that with you guys. Actually, I'll do that now. Just bear with me. Cool. So that's uploading. You guys will see it pop up in the handouts section of the GoToWebinar UI. Cool. So as it says on the slide here, detailed and accurate metadata is super, super important. Having all the contact details. A thing about contact details is when you look at metadata. I'm not going to get too hard into this, but I think I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. When you look at iTunes, I'm going to attempt to pull up iTunes here, so it's going to make it a little wonky here. And everybody's favorite album. Ooh, I think I actually have to be in my library. I have music from all over the place. I'm just going to try and find something that I know has some decent metadata on it. All right, cool. So the metadata that you're going to encounter most in your travels, without a system like Sinktank to track, a larger variety of metadata, is the metadata that lives within the MP3. It's called the ID3 tag. The ID3 tags there's about 80 of them, but I think I think iTunes collects about 8 or 9 of them that are really useful. And you can see those here: the song, the artist, the album artist. That can be different than the artist if, say, it is, you want to. It's a recorded. The work is by a particular artist, written by and also performed by originally, but you wanted to denote another album or another artist is on this album. I wanted to just get into this really quickly because this all makes a lot of sense. There's one thing, and it's a really great hack for metadata. You have to think that when a track, no matter how you share it, when it leaves your hands, it goes into somebody else's and it sits there. You could think of it in a way that, you pitched for a particular brief for a music supervisor for a particular show. They didn't like it. They liked the song. It wasn't good for the use that they needed it then, but the song did resonate with them. And then, so they go back for another project and they're like, oh, there was that great song, the affect song, and they find it and they're like, oh man, I can't remember who sent this to me. They're probably under time constraints, as most people are in this industry. So it's going to be a pain in the butt for them to have to go through their Gmail or whatever they're using, email, and try to find it. So a quick way to resolve that is to do this. Oop, spell things right. And just drop your name in there, drop an email, a number, whatever you want to do. That way, that goes with the track everywhere throughout its travels, and people know who to contact immediately when they license. So that's like a top line metadata best practice. That document that I just shared with you guys will have a lot more. We'll jump back into the presentation now. Cool. So that's on metadata. Check out the handout. We think it's pretty valuable. So knowing your rights is we spoke about just making sure that you know that you can clear legally the work on both sides, the master and the copyright. I've heard a few horror stories of like really honest mistakes where something was synced and it wasn't meant to be because there was an email missing. You don't want to be on either end of that. It's not pretty for anybody. So instrumental versions and other versions are super important for displaying your works. Obviously, if it's your work or you have a relationship with the creator of the work, you could make a bespoke copy of that work for a particular sync if the money was there. Edit out some lyrics, change something around, make the hook happen a couple times so it's good for the use, stuff like that. But bespoke stuff comes at a cost, and a lot of people might not be willing to jump in for that buy-in right away. So we always recommend that if you have extra versions of the song that you're happy being out there, including instrumentals or a demo version or something like that you think might be catchy for a different use, definitely include it in your offering and make sure that people know that you have that, because it can be the difference of them realizing that it's going to work or not. PRO registration, we love them all. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC here, SOCAN in Canada, so on and so forth. They're so important for you guys for your royalties. A lot of them have a lot of value add services right now as well. So they're a great kind of support structure for not only getting paid for the stuff you played on, but for also networking and interfacing with other people and growing your network and growing your understanding of the industry. So highly recommend that if you're not with a PRO, you register with one as a writer or publisher, and that you make sure your works are registered. Technology, that's us. You can see the parenthesis there, Sinktank. We ran into a huge issue with our catalog. We had a small catalog, maybe 50 tracks, and an even smaller staff. Joel Jordan, the CEO of Sinktank, and myself were working on a company called Earth Program. We did a few syncs, but we basically did not have the ability to put the manpower out to do the business that we needed to do. So we sought a technological solution. We definitely recommend you check out Sound Gizmo. We think it's the best. There are others out there. Find the one that works with your workflow, and and it's worth the expense. Even, our competitors are worth the expense. We're worth the expense. It's really daunting, the process of metadata and tracking all this stuff, and the technology is there to help. Sorry, guys. I'm just reading some questions here that there might be some issues with slides. Is everybody seeing the slides? I know, Michelle, you said you weren't. Um, I just stopped and restarted this slide. Michelle, let me know. Can you just write in and let me know if you see it? Okay, so I just queried her. We'll find out about that. In the meantime, I'm going to answer some questions. Kate wrote in metadata is like using ID3 editor, correct? Do you recommend other software? We recommend Sound Gizmo. That's our business. But yeah, ID3 editor as a native, I think it's just Windows application, works really well. There's a couple out there. I would just say hit the blogs. Everybody's got their own opinion. You need to form your own. So try everything. We offer a 30-day free trial of Sinktank. I'm sorry, of Sound Gizmo. So we're happy to have you test it there. But yeah, try them all. See what you like. The big thing is it's really easy to edit an album for a couple different metadata key points. But when you're looking at kind of getting your metadata up to speed for across your entire catalog, unless you've got a bunch of interns or friends willing to help you or all the time in the world, it can be pretty daunting. Editing in bulk is key. So anywhere that can do that would be good. So Elena writes, and everybody forgive me if I mispronounce your names. So sure, it's a good question. Metadata catalog, is that what labels usually have, or music consultants? So the catalog, so we see this, Elena, as kind of a demand side, supply side relationship. So the supply side being the music publisher, the artist, the copyright owner, and also the master owner. However, that relationship works out, as we talked about. And the supply side is feeding those catalogs to the demand side, who are the people that are looking to utilize it, such as music consultants, music departments, music supervisors. It's not just music supervisors that make these decisions. We're going to get into that because it can be pretty tricky, and we're going to talk about how to kind of navigate that and do your research. But yeah, so usually the metadata is held by the catalog owner, and then or created by the catalog owner. In our environment, we have both supply side and demand side. So we have users, we have people that are creating the content, as well as people that are utilizing the content, such as like Adult Swim, that use the system mostly because of its catalog management and metadata tracking capabilities. So yeah, it's super important to everybody. The publishing companies and record labels create it. The music consultants utilize it to find stuff. And so Laura asks, do we have to produce ISRC codes to enter in? So for us, for our uses, we don't. So the ISRC code is basically utilized in the retail environment. It's how you track sales for different works. It's also utilized as a tracking number for the PROs like ASCAP and BMI. So generating the ISRC codes is just the best practice if you're going to try to monetize your work at all. It's not always so particular to publishing, although it could be. But yeah, just the best practice to go ahead and do it. So Sheila writes, for instrumentals, is there a certain way of saying the other versions are available, or simply just to say other instrumental versions are available? That's really up to you. So what I work with like 150 catalogs. I'm the primary account dude at Sinktank. So I really dig in with the clients to make sure that they're utilizing the software to their business goals and, blah, 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 all that account management stuff. And the one thing that I've seen is that each catalog has its culture, its own kind of way of being and presenting itself to the greater industry in the world. And I find that often the stronger the culture, the more recognizable the catalog is. That culture trickles down into everything, and it can trickle down into the naming convention of files and how you enter metadata. In your question, how do you alert people that there are other instrumental versions? I cover some of that in the handout I gave you guys, but my advice is find something, try to use don't use, try to use consistent, follow grammar rules. Try to use consistent capitalization, stuff like that. Not a lot of punctuation. Just for the same reason you don't do that in subject lines of emails. It just looks spammy. Uh, and then find something, find a visual culture for your catalog in the metadata, in the presentation, in the call to actions, just as you would on your website. Just stick with it, tweak it, but do it all at the same time. Keep it consistent. Okay, cool. So it looks like everybody can see them, can see the slides. I'm just responding to all of this. Michelle, we're gonna throw the I'm gonna throw the slides out in just a few minutes. Just want to get through them so that people listen to me talk a bit more. Cool. So I haven't moved a slide. Zoe, let's see. I'm just getting some more. Okay, so this is the new slide. Catalog management. Oops, sorry. Just a few resources that you guys can use. The Sync blog resource that we love. Centric Music out in England. Those guys are great. Huge Liverpool fans. The and just a couple other links. You're going to see links throughout this deck. We highly recommend grabbing your iPad and reading through them when you have the chance. Legalities and key terms. So this is super fun. Obviously, it's really important that you understand the very industry specific terms that people are going to throw around, especially when it relates to types of deals. And we have a few here that we've highlighted, such as one stop, which I covered, exclusivity, which is obviously just what it is. People in a sync, people both in representing catalogs in a sync plugger type environment, which is someone that just gets an admin percentage for syncing your music. Or a licensee that is looking to have exclusivity or exclusive use of a particular copyright for a certain period of time. It's really important to kind of drill down and understand exactly what the person you're talking to means. For being, dealing with a lot of the industry, everybody kind of has their own idea. So communication is key for all this stuff. It's just going to be a lot less painful. And when it comes to communication, don't be afraid to negotiate. That's something that we think is huge. Always seek legal advice. There are a ton of legal, not a ton, but there are a few really good lawyers out there that aid for free people in the music industry. If you just do a search, you can find them pretty easily. Just a real quick thing about negotiating terms and fees. This is like I've realized with a lot of people that are just starting out and seeking sync licensing opportunities, that there's kind of this nebulous feeling of what are my tracks worth? What is my catalog worth? You obviously don't want to undersell yourself, but you don't want to become cost prohibitive to people that might want to, understand or license your catalog. I'm sorry. So I think it's important to understand. Have an honest conversation with yourself about, similar artists. What have their sync opportunities been? How do they differ from your artists? Are they more popular at retail or on the blogs and things like that, or are they less? The attractiveness of the artist can sometimes be, if you're dealing with top line artists, as important as the song itself and the catchiness of the song. For instance, we interviewed Lindsay B. Smith from Vice up in Canada, who's awesome. She's the music supervisor there. And, because Vice's brand, she looks for something that's original. She always wants to have the new music. And, they do a great job with their content in Viceland and everything. And, lots of really good stuff from there, from understanding their brand. So it's important that you understand your brand too, and understand what are probable uses for it, and really kind of stick to the best possible, use of your time. There's no formula to this. I would just say, get around, listen to what other bands are doing as far as sync goes. Understand understand where the connection might be for your music. If you are doing something like kind of in the more classical or composer based or library sync-based music, library music. Just so you guys, that term's thrown around. It's meant to be, music that isn't created by a particular artist and necessarily released for, for retail or for commercial download, but it's something that's kind of created as an accompaniment for potential syncs. So yeah, there's lots of articles on SyncBlog about that as well. I'm not going to spend too much time. If anybody else has any questions, I will read them now, and let's see. All right, so Patricia, I think you mean this slide, but I'm going to send this over to you guys so that you can download it, and all the links will work. They should work. I tested them on my computer, so you should be able to use them. Give you a minute on that. Mick, yeah, we're gonna have the audio and the video recorded and packaged up and linked in a few days, and we'll send some other assets your way. Liji, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Yes, that stuff has to be done. The question is, for metadata, does that need to be embedded before the CDs are printed and sent to iTunes? Yes, absolutely. Depending on how you're distributing your works to retail, they're going to have a set requirement for that stuff. As far as for licensing opportunities, like I showed you that little thing in the comment section, I wouldn't send that to retail. They're probably going to not allow it anyway. Normally, when comments are sent, when MP3s are sent to retail, the comments field is blank. That's thought to be in the retail environment for the artist or for the user to make comments. We use it a little bit differently on the business to business side, just because it makes sense. And Farad, we're going to have that download published shortly. Emma's going to work on that when she's back in the office. She's in London when she's back in the office tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm going to link the PDF stuff to you in just a sec. All right, skipping over this guy again and going to identifying sync opportunities. This has been blown open. There are so many more channels for syncing now, as we spoke about earlier in the conversation. Film, television, advertising, video games, online content, YouTube creators that are making their own stuff and then monetizing it and need music to sync. You should be monetizing that as well. Payments are smaller, but it's just that important. If you do it enough, you can make it happen. We will go into that a little bit later. So it's really important to know kind of how music departments and production teams are structured. Of course, everything's going to be different project to project, but usually the film, television, advertising worlds will kind of stick to the same key players, just so everybody going into a project knows what to expect and who to talk to for what. So understanding that can really help you narrow down who you want to try to reach out to as far as a potential sync or a license. So we've listed a couple of different key personnel for all of them. So doing research on creatives and producers in advertising is huge. They're going to a huge thing about getting in touch with these people is kind of understanding who they are, but then definitely not just cold calling them. If there's one thing throughout all the talks that I've done on sync licensing for music supervisors and stuff like that, is they don't open emails from people they don't know. I mean, who does? So we always at Sinktank publish a list of different sync events and industry events that we urge people to get out to. It's on the blog right now, synkwithanhblog.com. And you can attend those and develop relationships with people. That's really what is going to help you make the sync work once you've identified the opportunities. So I won't drill down too much into this, aside from if you like a show, have a look at the credits. If you like a movie, have a look at the credits. Look for music department, music supervisor, or anything with the word music in it. And you'll start to see the people that are making those decisions. One quick thing, let's see, I'm just going to skip over here. Yeah, so Emma says the same thing on this slide. In big bold, never pitch for a sync opportunity without doing your research first. That's huge. All this information is out there. It's really, really important to make sure that you're doing that research. Oh, Michelle disagrees. She says that she's sent a lot of emails to people and have gotten plenty of syncs. So yeah, I mean, of course, I don't disagree with you. I'm sure that's happened as well. I'm just speaking on what I've been told by music supervisors that we've interviewed. So yeah, do your thing. I will say that we've had a client or two that has been that have sent out like a lot of pitches, just consistently blasting different music supervisors without relationships, and we've heard from people that it was well received. So, within the best practices of emailing. Okay, so just one more quick question. Laura asks if a sync company has written a brief for you to respond to, would they normally expect for you to have a master recording, or can you offer something less final, or is that off-putting to the company? I don't really know the answer to that because I'm often not on that side. I think that the less work you can provide for someone, the better, and the quicker delivery of a full, ready to use broadcast version of a synced copyright or master is super important. Just because you don't want to be the guy slowing it down or the girl slowing it down because people might not appreciate that. Everybody wants to get everything done as soon as possible. So yeah, if you just say, hey Liz, if you need to email I don't know. It depends on the vibe, I guess, but I think that 100% of nothing is nothing. So sending 50% is better than nothing. And Michelle says, yeah, well, of course, people would say that to weed out the peeps. That is 100% true. What we do. We do provide a little bit of a soapbox for music supervisors to speak their mind, and we enjoy doing it. So I'm just going to answer a couple more questions here and then move on. So Zoe asks, when you see people's names and credits in IMDb and such, what is the best way to contact people, LinkedIn or Facebook? I personally think LinkedIn. I love when I get LinkedIn communications from people that thought what I do could be valuable or interested in talking professionally. You can usually do LinkedIn, or oftentimes there will be a contact at the it really just depends. I don't even want to lead anybody down a particular path because it's really just about understanding the sensitivities of people and dealing with the information you have in front of you and making a best guess. So Melissa asks, do sync placement companies like Secret Road require exclusivity, or can you pitch your tracks directly or through other companies? Everybody's different. Secret Road, I don't particularly know how they operate. I will say that, even to Michelle's point, if a track works, the track works. And if you can get somebody to listen to it, I don't think they're going to care how they got it. So it really depends on the work. Now, when you're talking about a lot of times, Secret Road has a lot of power, so I'm sure that they can kind of dictate their terms to a degree. But a lot of times, it's the copyright holder themselves that decides how much exclusivity they're willing to give, and that's part of the negotiation process. Cool. So let's go to the next promo. So, I mean, I'm sure this is old hat to everybody that's listening, but promotion of your music is the second most important thing to making your music, both at retail, and for publishing as well. So having a visual presence for your music, for your artists, having a good coverage across any available channel you can, is going to give you instant credibility in anybody's eyes. Now, in the case of like the Vice peeps up in Canada and Lindsay, they prefer stuff that's a little under the radar, but they didn't just imagine the band; it came from somewhere. So I think music usually tends to fall with proper promotional management, fall into the right box for the people that want to hear it. And music supervisors and other people making decisions on the demand side are going to be among those people. So you instantly get credibility no matter where it is if someone finds it where they want to see it. So, understanding your catalog is hugely important. So knowing where your niche is, knowing where if you're looking for, I mean, it might even help to kind of understand what the project is and think about different places you could promote to or throw a track up on, such as SoundCloud and stuff like that, where people might listen to them. Again, this is all situational because it could fall into a couple different categories, depending on if it's a finished master or whatnot. Whatever you're comfortable with, you are the copyright holder. It is yours to do what you wish with it, assuming that you have the either own the master or have an agreement with the master holder. Telling the story of your catalog is hugely important. Just like telling the story of any business is hugely important, or any product. So, highlighting past placements, getting those out into social media. Once you can, clear that you can do that with the content creator, to talk about, the placement, big up the content creator with an at, be excited that you synced it. Make sure that those placements and the work that you've done is visible. It's your CV. Um, and then this is our favorite, get creative. We do, our annual drink tank event, which of course is creatively named by us idiots. But yeah, getting out there, hosting gigs, inviting people to your shows, getting people in front of you. It's a lot easier, I think, and a lot of times to make an impression with a face rather than an email. Michelle, of course, has had tons of lucks with that. So yeah. So that said, cool pitching. So we're gonna get into this a little bit, and I might give me one sec. All right, cool. So it says it all there, on the second line of the slide. No matter who you're pitching to, it's really important that you understand that you're not only pitching your catalog or your track or your artist, you're pitching yourself. A lot goes into the sync, aside from, oh, we like that track, let's use it, sign the contract. Music departments are responsible for a lot. They're responsible for budgets. They're responsible for the delivery of the product, for it actually working. Understanding those sensitivities when you're pitching, anything you can glean as far as budget or the mechanics of a particular project can be used when you're creating the pitch. Short and sweet. Obviously, everybody likes that. The whole keep it simple, stupid thing. Um, we find, and other people might have other luck or other experience with this, but we find that attaching MP3s and other files directly to an email, it can be dangerous because especially if you're sending it to a corporate email, a lot of those emails won't even hit the person's inbox because they're going to be filtered out by either a mail server filter or by a local firewall that says not on this network and just doesn't allow it. So you can run into problems if you're doing that. With Sinktank, we have a very secure, trackable way, and with SoundGizmo, a very secure, trackable way of sharing stuff, both playlists and actual tracks themselves. And you can check out the 30-day trial to see what that's like. But Box works, Dropbox works, WeTransfer works. I think it's really important that when you are uploading files, that the file name is really speaks a lot to what the file actually is and is spelled correctly, follows grammar rules, so it doesn't look weird. That's really important. And you'll see some of that in the best practices for metadata document that I handed out a little earlier. And again, metadata, everything is noteworthy in the pitch. So just like you would do a promo for radio and things like that, you would definitely want to include any noteworthy information, big up the track and the artist as much as you can. With SoundGizmo in particular, we have a lot of smaller companies that are using it for all of their pitching, for their radio promo, for their blog and online media outlet promo, for their licensing, for pretty much everything. So, kind of getting into getting into a best practice, no matter what system you use, of kind of doing it the same all the time will really help bring a brand to your pitches. And I think people really appreciate that, that it gives them more confident that you are a real person and you are there to do business with them. As spam, and then otherwise the ability to, to get the deal done. Here's some links. We're going to go over those again, or you'll be able to go over those again, rather, when you receive the slides. All right, micro licensing. So we're going to break away from the sync licensing a little bit, because there's another side of licensing music, or I guess you could call it sync licensing, although they can be defined as slightly different things because of the way that they are structured. Micro licensing is a great way to monetize large, or attempt to monetize large swaths of catalog that might not be top tier songs. They might not be by the most popular artist or on the most recent album or have the most traction. And then on the other side, they can be used by content creators who are making less than top line content, such as, so as opposed to a Hollywood film, it would be a student film, or a music, or some sort of commercial. It would be a corporate video. YouTube is huge for this, especially in the gaming world. You have tons of kids of all ages screenshotting their in-game play, and then they want to sync it and they want to show it off on YouTube. So different platforms, including ours, have incorporated ways that you can actually micro-license to these creators, and it comes with a lowered overhead, so you're not actually sending emails, doing deals, sending pitches. It's more of an automated process, which is really, really helpful. Lots of different ways that you can do this, and Q Songs is one. They actually are more of a sync plugger. Using our system to do it yourself is one. Different ways you can go about it, and we'll provide some links for stuff, except for our competitors, of course. But you're free to research those. So just, micro licensing, the parts of the catalog that it's really useful for are less popular titles, or stuff that's, that isn't going to be immediately attractive to a top line music supervisor. You don't have to negotiate. You dictate the terms. Terms usually are structured like price, territories, the term that you can use it, any notes such as exclusions, stuff like that, can't be used for cigarette ads or alcohol ads, all that stuff. And to that point, that's something that's a really important thing to understand if you want to move fluidly as a sync agent with other artists. Understand what they might not be keen to be synced to. There's a lot of religious sensitivities or whatever, various sensitivities that I think it's important to really make sure that you have a clear definition of with your artists and your copyright holders, or the people that you're working with, so that you don't pitch something and then the music soup says, "Oh, that's awesome," and then you find out that the artist isn't cool on having that sync for whatever reason. You're back to the drawing board. Everybody's time was wasted. So Richard Kirstein wrote a really awesome article on micro licensing that I linked. So I definitely recommend checking that out and digging further into it. We talked about this a little bit more in the pitch process. We'll just kind of breeze over it. Relationships are everything in our eyes. We spend a lot of time on community and relationship for our business, and everybody always talks about doing that as well. Again, it's not just the act of wanting to sync the song. It's the act of doing the business, and then of course getting paid for the business on both sides. That really brings it together. So you doing business with someone that you've done business with before in any way and had a good experience, you're always going to want to look to that person, even if maybe their track isn't potentially. You could always want to look to that person if their track isn't even potentially the one you want. Because again, everybody wants to go home at beer 30 and not have stress in their job. So understanding that is pretty important. Okay, so key events. We have a whole list of them that you guys can link to when I send you this. Definitely get out there. Get out there. we sold the first several Sinktank systems literally by going to conferences and buying people beer and being nice and being really excited, and just, being the face of something that we think they would want to get into. So doing that is super useful and super fun. And of course, women in music. Their events are always packed with top liners, always super fun. The DJs are always great, and sometimes open bar, which is great too. So definitely, if you see a women in music conference, party, or any sort of event, we highly recommend attending them. The entire industry shows up, and it's always a lot of fun and very worthwhile. We do some webinars. There's other people that do webinars. Music. Get in touch with all be familiar with all of the music industry blogs. We're all consistently producing lists of these things, and get involved. Have some fun. And then, of course, play the long game. That old coffee is for closers thing from Boiler Room, that movie. If you haven't seen it, you don't necessarily need to watch it. But the idea is that it is a numbers game, and you got to get in there and do the work and use the resources and use each other as resources. The talking among with other people that are kind of at the same stage in the growth of their career and of their catalog can be super useful. Join forces where you can. We love that. Cooperation, I think it's called, is fantastic. So with that said, we're Sinktank. You can check us out. This Sinktank.com. I just built us a new website that I'm about to launch. It's the one that you see here. You won't see that at this link because I kind of ran out of time. But within a few days, we're going to have the new site. In any case, that and soundgizmo.com, where you can go and sign up directly for your 30-day trial. I'm Mike at Sinktank.com, M-I-K-E. Feel free to hit me up with anything. Mike Fallis, M-I-K-E, F as in Frank, A-L-I-S as in Sam. I think I'm the only one on LinkedIn. Love to hear from you guys. And then just one last bit. This is the current rate that we're offering, so you guys can click that on SoundGizmo if you want to. Our Twitter is pretty poppin', so you can follow us at Sinktank. We don't do Instagram. You guys do not need to see us. I would also, our Facebook is also an extension of that as well. We have some great guest writers on the blog, so that's syncblog.com. Definitely recommend you guys check that out, as, of course, we would. So thanks for that, guys. I'm going to stay online for a little bit longer. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to shoot this, go ahead and shoot this thing over to you guys, this deck. Let me find it first. This two-screen experience is weirding me out, guys. Get out of this view. PowerPoint has taken over my computer. And there you go. Cool. Well, thanks again, guys. If you have any questions, please hit me up. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll get it published and out to you guys via the email that you subscribe to. Synkblog.com, Sinktank.com, womeninmusic.org. And yeah, that's it. I'm Mike. Take care. Thanks. Have a good day.